Late one night, journalist Melvin receives an unexpected visit from Doherty, an employee at the pharmaceutical giant BTH. She reveals that the company has been dumping toxic waste, causing dangerous mutations in animals and health crises among locals. Determined to expose BTH's crimes, Melvin and Doherty begin preparing their evidence. But before they can act, the building's security cameras reveal a deadly sight. The Killer Nuts, a violent gang and rock band hired by BTH, have surrounded the place. Melvin orders Doherty to flee while he distracts them. However, her escape route is blocked, forcing her to leap over a railing. She lands hard, breaking the memory drive containing all the company's secrets. Upstairs, the gang storms into Melvin's office, shooting him repeatedly. Incredibly, he keeps standing, so they fire again, then launch a trident, hurling him through a window. Doherty watches in horror as Melvin crashes to the ground and dies, before running into the night. By morning, Winston wakes to another grim day. Since his wife's death, he's been raising his stepson Wade, though their bond is strained. On their way out, Winston sees Spence, a local thug, threatening their neighbor Daisy to sell her property. When she hesitates, Spence tosses her cat into the road. Winston dives to save the animal, narrowly avoiding a car, while Wade walks off angrily, accusing him of cowardice for not standing up to Spence. Winston tries to explain that sometimes fighting back only makes things worse. Later, Winston arrives for his janitorial shift at the BTH factory, where alarms and screams echo through the halls, sounds he's long learned to ignore. After work, a doctor gives him devastating news. He has an aggressive brain tumor and barely a year to live. Surgery isn't an option, and the treatment costs more than he can afford. His insurance company refuses to help, even under his platinum plan. Meanwhile, Robert, the ruthless CEO of BTH, rages as his company's stock plummets amid scandals about illegal waste dumping and mob connections. His brother Fritz, head of security and leader of the Killer Nuts, is ordered to clean up the mess. Fritz storms into the gang's rehearsal and sends them out to hunt Doherty down. The thugs trash her apartment searching for her, but Doherty watches from across the street. Once they leave, she sneaks inside, retrieves a hidden bag beneath the floor panel, and tells her roommate she's never coming back. At school, Wade's attempt to perform in a talent show ends in embarrassment. A video of his failed audition goes viral, and classmates mock him mercilessly. Trying to cheer him up, Winston puts on a tutu and dances with him, but Wade isn't amused. When he spots Winston's medical report, his stepfather snatches it away and later tosses it in the trash before going out for a drink. That night, at a high-profile event, Robert is confronted by angry investors and the mayor. Then Spence pulls him aside to meet Thad, his powerful mob boss father, who demands repayment of the money he loaned to BTH, and makes it clear that Robert is running out of time. Later, Robert receives an award and chooses to ignore his mounting problems, using the moment to boast about his success instead. During the ceremony, Winston sneaks in and approaches him, explaining that he's been a loyal employee for 13 years without ever causing trouble, and that he deserves better insurance coverage. Pretending to be understanding, Robert tells his assistant, Kissy, to handle it. Kissy leads Winston outside, pretending to help, but once he steps out, she locks the door in his face and walks away. From the other side, Winston can hear her and Robert laughing at him. Enraged, Winston storms back to the BTH facility, unaware that Doherty is watching from the shadows. When she sees the security door open for him, she slips inside too. She triggers a security breach alert, prompting Fritz to call in the Killer Nuts to deal with the intruder. While Doherty uses her tools to collect a sample of the toxic waste, Winston dips his mop into a barrel of radioactive sludge and then uses it to threaten a night guard, forcing him to hand over all the company's cash. As Winston heads for the exit, he accidentally bumps into Doherty, causing her sample to spill onto the money bag, which instantly bursts into flames. Before they can react, the Killer Nuts show up. Doherty snatches Winston's ID and the two make a run for it. They reach a fence blocking the road. Doherty jumps over easily and tries to help Winston, but he's too slow. With the gang closing in, she's forced to leave him behind. The thugs surround Winston and shoot him point blank in the face. Realizing their mistake, Fritz yells at them to clean it up. The gang dumps Winston's body and his mop into a vat of radioactive waste to erase the evidence. Watching from a distance, Doherty sees the horrifying result as the chemicals seep into Winston's body, reviving him, but mutating him into a monstrous, green creature. Horrified, Winston screams at his reflection before staggering toward home. He spots Daisy signing over her property to Spence, and to avoid being seen, he climbs the fire escape to his apartment window. Inside, Wade is calling 911, worried that his stepfather has gone missing. When he sees the monster at the window, he panics and throws something at it, knocking Winston off balance. Winston crashes onto Spence's car below, setting off the alarm. Spence rushes out, sees the grotesque figure, and opens fire. But Winston's new body regenerates instantly, pushing the bullet out of his skin. Furious, he grabs Spence's arm and rips it off as bystanders film the entire scene. Winston flees, while Daisy seizes the chance to reclaim her property papers. When police arrive, witnesses describe the creature in wild, exaggerated ways, calling him a beast, a mutant, and a demon. The officer fires a warning shot and declares a manhunt. A torch-wielding mob chases Winston into the forest, where he collapses. By morning, he wakes up in a campsite belonging to a homeless man named Guthrie, who, surprisingly, isn't afraid of him. Guthrie has found Winston's mop and returns it, warning him that it must now be used wisely. Meanwhile, Wade watches the news and realizes the authorities are hunting the very creature he saw, his stepfather. He immediately calls the station to share what he knows. At a nearby fast food joint, a far-right extremist group known as the Nasty Lads has taken control of the building, holding customers hostage in protest against a recent name change. The restaurant, once called Mr. Meat, had been renamed Miss Meat, enraging the group. When a detective attempts to negotiate, the leader responds by opening fire. Meanwhile, Winston sneaks back into town and notices the chaos unfolding. A blind customer bravely mocks the lads and splashes her drink at their leader. Just as he's about to shoot her, Winston bursts through the back door and smashes the leader with his mop, tearing off half his face. He then goes on a rampage, brutally taking out the lads one by one, even pulling a man's intestines out from his backside. After the gruesome battle, the hostages are freed. As Winston steps outside, the police prepare to open fire, but the hostages defend him, calling him their savior. Reporters rush to capture the moment, and Wade instantly recognizes Winston's voice. Spence also spots him on TV and realizes he's the same man who attacked him, prompting Thad to dispatch his men. Winston quickly becomes a media sensation, with people praising him and snapping selfies. Later, when he stops to urinate, he discovers his pee is now acidic. The media begins speculating that BTH's toxic waste caused his transformation, dubbing him the Toxic Avenger or simply Toxic. At BTH, Robert furiously blames Kissy and Fritz for letting DHY escape and assumes Winston was working with her. He's enraged that the new hero is stealing headlines, but when he studies the footage closely, he realizes the mutant janitor is actually Winston, identifiable by his tutu. Recognizing that his company's toxic pool caused the mutation, Robert orders his scientists to replicate it. They explain the mutation resulted from the combination of their waste and a rare genetic marker, but they'll need Winston alive to reproduce it. Meanwhile, DHY visits Winston's apartment, where Wade lets her in after spotting his stepfather's ID. She explains what really happened that night at the factory and reveals her mother died from toxic exposure. Suddenly, the Nasty Lads burst in, and DHY helps Wade escape through the window, though one thug manages to shoot a tracker onto Wade's leg. On the street, they run into Winston, who finally confesses his cancer diagnosis. Their moment is cut short when Thad's men attack, gunning Winston down. DHY drags Wade away as Winston recovers, killing one of the attackers with his mop before retreating. Deep in the woods, Wade hears a beeping and discovers the tracker. But before they can act, the lads arrive, shoot DHY, and capture Wade. Winston hides inside an abandoned building, inspecting his injuries. Though the bullets have come out, the wounds remain open. As Thad's men close in, Winston conceals himself among trash bags, ambushing the first thug that walks by. Using the corpse as a puppet, he lures another attacker closer and kills him as well. Finally, he leaps onto a car, rips the driver's head off, and crushes it beneath the tires as he drives away. After the chaos, Winston finds Doherty and carries her back to the hobo camp. Guthrie, who admits he used to be a doctor before losing everything, is unable to offer any help. Desperate, Winston uses his own blood to heal DHY's wound. When she wakes up, she agrees to join forces with him. Meanwhile, inside the Nuts van, Fritz tries to calm Wade, claiming he only wants Winston. Wade angrily replies that at least Winston loves him and even calls him Dad for the first time. He taunts Fritz for not having anyone who cares about him, which deeply upsets the thug. Elsewhere, an enraged Thad calls Robert, furious about Winston and blaming BTH for creating him. Thad threatens consequences, but when Fritz arrives with Wade, Robert reassures him that everything is under control. Later, the Killer Nuts stage a concert performance. DHY secretly cuts off the band's microphone and replaces it with Winston's. Winston strides through the cheering crowd, singing the band's hit song as fans go wild, some even flashing him. The lead singer, jealous of Winston's attention, shoots at him, but Winston retaliates by tearing the top of his head off with his mop. The terrified crowd scatters while the band members attack in revenge. Winston dodges one man who falls off stage and dies instantly. Then he hurls his mop, impaling another musician through the skull before it hits the sound mixer, electrocuting the DJ. He beats down the guitarist and rips off his beard, forcing him to eat it. Shocked by the brutality, the crowd begins to question whether their hero is actually a monster. Winston then reveals the truth about the corrupt band and BTH's crimes. Soon after, Winston and DHY reach Robert's mansion. Winston plucks out his own eye to scout the area and spots two guards outside. DHY distracts them by flirting, but the nervous guards accidentally shoot each other. Inside the garden shed, Wade spots Winston approaching and tries to warn him, but it's too late. A statue of Robert sprays sleeping gas on them. When they awaken, both are chained up inside the lab. The scientists extract a sample of Winston's blood to create a serum for Robert, but the first attempt fails. Furious, Robert orders them to keep experimenting until they succeed, forcing Winston to endure several agonizing extractions. Eventually, the scientists succeed in creating a serum that falls within the correct mitogenic range. But there's a problem. Before they can explain, Robert snatches the vial and refuses to listen. Just then, Thad arrives with his men and switches on the news, which is broadcasting Winston's violent rampage at the concert. The mayor has officially withdrawn her support for BTH, leaving the company in chaos. Furious, Thad tells Robert he's going to pay for failing to contain the situation. In a moment of desperation and pride, Robert drinks the serum. At first, his transformation seems minor, but his strength and speed skyrocket, allowing him to slaughter Thad and his men in seconds in a brutal frenzy. When Kissy walks in, the transformation completes. Robert now looks monstrous. Excited by his power, Kissy demands to take the serum too, but there are only a few drops left. Soon after, Robert starts convulsing, and the scientists reveal that the serum wasn't fully stabilized. Panicking, Kissy screams at them to fix it immediately and orders the guards to execute all the hostages, including Wade. Fritz is horrified by her command. When Kissy turns toward him, it becomes clear she's also been slightly mutated by the serum. While DHY grabs a computer to collect the evidence she needs, Winston smashes through the door and retrieves his mop. Outside, two guards are patrolling near the shed, so Winston shouts to draw them in. He hurls a rock, killing one guard instantly, while the other fires his gun, accidentally hitting a gas tank. The explosion destroys the shed and sends Winston flying backward. Believing Wade has been killed, Winston lets out a devastated scream. At that moment, Robert appears wielding an axe, and the two engage in a fierce fight. Their weapons lock, and the radioactive mop begins to melt through the axe's blade. Robert knocks the mop away and attempts to decapitate Winston, but the corroded axe fails to do the job. Winston seizes back his mop and sears Robert's face, forcing him to flee. The battle turns into a wild chase, with both men tumbling down a hillside. Meanwhile, DHY returns to the car, only for Kissy to ambush her from behind, wrapping chains around her neck. DHY struggles to breathe but manages to fight back, forcing Kissy to release her. The two women engage in a fierce brawl until Kissy's attention shifts. She spots Robert and Winston battling nearby, momentarily distracted by the chaos. So, DHY hits her in the head with a toilet to finally bring her down. At the same time, Robert knocks down Winston, but when he's about to kill him, DHY hits him with a toilet too. Refusing to give up, Robert slashes a container of toxic waste. Winston breaks his axe and tackles him to repeatedly punch him in the face. Then, he grabs him by the neck to start choking him, but he's interrupted by Wade appearing and calling him Dad. Turns out Fritz used a hidden tunnel to save the boy. Robert takes the chance to attack again, so Winston uses his mop to throw him on top of the car. His head goes through the hood and DHY starts the engine to shred him. Afterward, Winston tries to reunite with Wade, only for Kissy to stab him from behind. When Fritz tries to stop her, his throat gets slashed as well. Winston tackles Kissy and they fall on the spilled waste, causing a big explosion that kills her. Sometime later, Winston wakes up in the hospital. The blind woman from the burger joint incident is there, revealing she's a special agent. She turns on the TV and they watch the news, which confirms that DH has done a data dump that has exposed the BTH conspiracy. Even the mayor and some cops are involved. The agent explains she's been after BTH for years, and she's so thankful for Winston's help that he won't be arrested for his crimes. The doctor then informs him that his mutations have cured his cancer. When Winston leaves the hospital, Daisy and a crowd are waiting to thank him for saving the city. Even Wade hugs him for the first time. Dirty says goodbye to him from afar. In another room, Fritz is being guarded by a cop and Kissy wakes up. When it's time for the school talent show, Wade is finally brave enough to perform and Winston proudly supports him from the back. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.